First, I want to bring in Utah Senator Mike Lee. He's threatening to, well, not really shut down the federal government, but unless Obamacare is defunded, you're saying we're going to defund Obamacare. How's that going over, Senator?
Well, it's going well in the sense that the American people are overwhelmingly in support of it. The American people don't like this law. Congress never read the law before it was passed. The Supreme Court amended it not once but twice, and now President Obama has done exactly the same thing, amending it twice without any constitutional authority to do that. He's exempted out his big corporate cronies from the employer mandate. Meanwhile, he's told hardworking individual Americans they have to comply with the law's exacting commands or else they'll be fined severely under federal law. The point is, the president's now told us he's not going to follow this law. And if he's not going to follow it, the American people shouldn't be required to fund it. So a few of us in Congress are saying, look, we're not going to fund Obamacare. You can criticize us all you want, but we're not going to pass a continuing resolution or other appropriations measure that includes funding for ongoing further enforcement and implementation of Obamacare.
Now, Congress has the authority of the purse. So you are encouraging the House and the Senate to fund everything else, Medicare, Social Security, the military, every other function of government but Obamacare. How is the support, or is there a great divide on that issue?
Yes, there's a significant divide even within the party so far. But this is where the party is going to be changing. It's going to be changing because the calls from the American people are overwhelming on this, Sean. They don't want this law to kick in. And they understand that once this law kicks in, it'll be much harder for us to get out of it. A lot of us as Republicans were elected just a few years ago with a mandate to stop this horrible law. And now people are starting to understand that you're either with Obamacare or you're against it. If you're with it, then you'll be fine voting for a CR that funds Obamacare. If you're against it, you must commit to vote against any CR that contains Obamacare funding.
So you're saying to the Republicans, rather than symbolic votes to eliminate Obamacare and remove it as law in the land, they could use their constitutional authority to defund Obamacare and fund the rest of the government. It seems to me that is the only way out. And are you saying this is the last opportunity we have?
Yes, this is the last stop on the Obamacare Express. Before this law kicks in full force on January 1st, 2014, we've got one last shot, and that shot will occur when this current continuing resolution expires September 30th. We've got to pass another one to keep the government funded. Now, some in the liberal media have mischaracterized this as a promise to shut down the government. We don't want that. We don't need it. We can avoid it. We will avoid it. We want to keep everything funded in the government, everything except Obamacare. Now, if Harry Reid wants to force that, that would be unfortunate. But Harry Reid, I don't think, is not going to force a government shutdown simply because he wants to defend a law that is itself indefensible, a law that the president said is not ready to be implemented, and a law that the Senate author of Obamacare has described himself as a train wreck waiting to happen.
That's Max Bonkers. Well, and it's also causing business not to hire full-time workers. Last question. We're discussing with our audience tonight the issue of division in the country. We see a lot of this in Washington. You've been there a while. How divided is it in D.C.?
You know, D.C. is pretty divided. There's a lot of talk about how divided D.C. is on the news. What people sometimes overlook is that there are a lot of areas where we actually agree. Sometimes there are areas where we agree too often. The bigger division that I see, Sean, is the division that's taking place between the political governing class in Washington of either political party on the one hand and the American people on the other. When we put forward big new programs like Obamacare, that divides America, and that's bad. We've got to not fund it.
All right, Senator Mike Lee, thanks so much.